Well, howdy, everybody. And we are live early with Paul Wheaton because he was sitting here in backstage because Nicole is a confusing person with time sometimes. And so I thought, well, heck, let's just go live early. If you are coming to the live stream right now, do me a favor, share it out on social. I'm going to say it on Telegram too. StreamYard gave me a disapproving message when I went live and it said, "You're not scheduled to go live yet, but you can go early." So we're going to go early. Anyway, I'm here with Paul Wheaton. Paul, for the two people in the country who don't know who you are, who is Paul Wheaton, and how did you get to where you are today?
Oh, well, I believe there was a rig with wheels and I drove over
Over tall things?
oh sure. I'm in the mountains. I'm in Montana. I'm a long ways away from Tennessee.
You are. I bet it's colder there than here right now.
I don't know. It's definitely snowing right now, but the temperature I think is above freezing. So it's like we're in that weird period where everybody kind of thinks we live in Montana. It's one giant block of ice all winter, but actually the temperature frequently gets above freezing, and then the stuff kind of melts off a bit.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
But let's see. I am bonkers about permaculture. I got to permaculture by being obsessed about gardening. And now I do lots and lots with natural building, a lot with rocket mass heaters. Our season about rocket mass heaters is kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
I've given so many presentations in the last few weeks about rocket mass heaters. I'm kind of a little burnout on it myself. But rocket mass heaters, we had a few weeks ago, we hosted the garden master course. So we had a gal that taught master gardening for 17 years, but she also happened to be an intern with Masanobu Fukuoka. And so she's kind of like trying to do all organic, way beyond organic, and expand on Fukuoka's works while doing an organic market garden with a commercial food forest. And so she taught our garden master course. That is now done for this year, and we just set the dates for next year's course.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Does that cover it well enough? Does that paint a little bit of a picture?
It paints a picture.
Permies.com. I've got a massive online community.
Yeah, it's really cool. They're very active. I think you have like the only forum left that's active in the entire world.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Well, okay. There might be one or two more, but like forums as a technology kind of fell out of favor when blogs became easier to do comments on, and Facebook got really popular. But your forum, people go there and ask questions, and questions get answered. Like it still works.
Well, I gotta say, I never got the hang of Facebook.
Yeah.
I kind of dabble on a couple of other of those things, but the way that I manage forums is completely different than the way everybody else does, I think. And I think that made a big difference. And in fact, I don't know how interested you might be in this, but basically the forums at Permies is like probably my fifth or sixth attempt at doing online community stuff. The earliest being about 1986 or so. But basically what I do with Permies when I set it up is like, look, I'm so sick of trying to have a conversation with people and just getting shouted down because I'm obviously stupid. And so I just want to have a place to talk about the things I want to talk about the way I want to talk about them. And so I get it. There's going to hardly be anybody here. And, that's cool. I'm okay with that. I just kind of want to say my thing and visit with some folks about this. And then it became absolutely massive. And so I guess there's a lot of people who want to also talk about the things I want to talk about, and they also want to talk about these things the way I want to talk about them. So I don't know if you cruise through the forums much.
I've played a little bit. I have not spent enough time there yet. So what I'm impressed with in your forums is that, it's well organized. So you can go, you can search through and find topics and read about topics. But if you ask a question in many online areas, like, here's a question: how long do dehydrated eggs last in storage? Simple question like that. Like, if I ask that question on Facebook, I'm going to get the dangers of dehydrating eggs, how I'm going to kill grandma because I did that, 17 answers on how long eggs store, one of which might be correct, right? And then some helpful people. On your forums, somebody's going to answer you. They're either going to say, I don't know, but here's where I would look, or somebody will have an actual answer that's real. And that's, I think that's why it's important to find communities like permies.com, just because it's when you find communities like that where real answers come out, that's gold. It's like, if I have any questions about, permaculture, your natural building things, cooking, like anything I want to ask there, I can ask.
I kind of feel like we're playing the long game in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. Because, like, if you go onto Google and you type that in, you're going to look at the first 10 results and you're going to be like, garbage, garbage, commercial crap,
Yeah.
garbage, garbage, garbage. And then you're going to see permies and you're going to be like, oh, thank God. And then, and then you'll go there because you'll know you're not going to get, spammed with advertising like, oh, now a video starts playing while you're trying to read the thing, or a thing's going to block out the answer saying, give me your email address. I'm holding your answer hostage until I can whore out your email address. It's,
I mean, that's why people have email addresses for just that, right? We have our spam box where this is the one where all the crap goes, because the minute you sign up for that, they start emailing you all those, as a person who sends emails, I understand why they do it, but at the same time, like, I don't make people sign up for my email. I do have a pop-up that comes up, but you don't have to use it to see the stuff.
I kind of feel like eventually maybe Google will move permies.com up to the top of the search results, because it's like people are tired of looking at non-answers while being flooded with advertising. And plus, when you posted that thread asking that question, there's a good chance that once you got done posting it, it's like, here are the 6 threads that I found that were closest to what you just typed in.
Right.
And a lot of times one of those will be like, oh, look, somebody asked the exact same question 3 years ago.
Right. And got an answer.
Yeah. And I'm going to go look at that. And it's like, easy peasy, done. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like for our topics, I'm trying to manage the content in a way and keeping it free for people, and having it be, I don't know, high on content and low on fluff. A good wheat to chaff ratio.
Yes.
And I think we're getting that done. There are people who come and they say something about like, well, the eggs, the chicken, what religion was the chicken? Is it a nudist? What plane of existence is that real? Is that egg really from? So there's some of that, and we kind of tend to remove that. And then there's the stuff where people say, that's awesome. That's great. You're such a beautiful person. And we have a mechanism to say, go ahead and leave that up for a week.
Yeah.
And then it'll disappear. So that way, when you search and then you get there, what you see is pretty information rich, pretty awesome wheat to chaff ratio, very, very substantial. And so that way you can just read it and move on, kind of a thing, instead of having to like wade through a bunch of weird stuff.
Well, before we started, we were kind of talking about how we organize ourselves and making money. Do you want to talk about making money today?
I think that there's a weird thing in the permaculture world where some people are absolutely certain you cannot do permaculture unless you take on a vow of poverty.
Yes,
And
I agree.
uh, you like, you agree that you should take on a vow of poverty?
No, I agree that that exists in the permaculture world.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have no intention of taking a vow of poverty.
And so I stand up and I say, if you want to, that's cool, but it's not cool to point at others and say you got to take the vow of poverty also. And I think a great one to turn to is Sepp Holter and point at him, and it's like, wow, that dude's making some bank. And so it's like, so when it comes to making money, I want to encourage people to do passive income, but whenever I hear about passive income outside of my stuff,
Yeah,
it is like, it looks slimy as hell. And not only that, but most of the people, most of the information is like where to put your money, where to invest your money. And it's like,
yep.
well, that doesn't, I always thought that was called investing, not passive income, not residual income. And so if you're going to talk about making money, the thing I always try to encourage all homesteaders, all permies, all is to explore the passive income thing. And it's like, basically you make something, and the internet is amazing at this. You make something and you put it on the internet, and then it makes you like $2 a month. And for,
yeah,
and
woo,
for, yeah, $2 a month is amazing.
yeah.
Dumb fucks are like, what are you going to do with $2? You can't live on that.
I'm gonna do that 200 times.
Right. And not only that, I'll do it 200 times a month. And
Yeah.
then I look a year in the future, and it's like, now I've got $3,000 a month coming in, and I could just put my feet up. I could just, if $3,000 a month seems like plenty, I could just put my feet up and do nothing. And it's like, that's the beauty of the residual income and the passive income. It's kind of like when you hear about movie stars. They were in some kind of movie, so now they get like, I don't know, 20 grand a month every month for the next 20 years because they were in some movie that did pretty good. And it's like, well, let's tap into that, but in our own way. And then then here's the part where people, that thins the crowd. The way to get there, the way to get to passive income, give stuff away for free.
Okay, let's talk about this, because this is kind of what you do, and I think you're quite good at it. So you give stuff away for free so you can make money. How does that seems like a not very logical.
Yeah, I think every time anybody goes and looks at passive income like, I'm going to go make monies, I think that what they put out is crap, and they know it's crap, and nobody wants it. And so it just flops. But on the other hand, if you turn around and then you just help people, you just give stuff away for free, you're just helping an individual or whatever. Now, granted, online, then it's like, okay, so somebody asked a question like, how long does dehydrated eggs last?
Yeah.
And then you have an answer. You have some stuff to say. You're going to help this person. And so you type out your answer. Here's, and then if it's this, then that. And if you did this, then it's longer. And if you didn't do that, then here's how short it is, and stuff like that. And it's like, thank you so much. You've been such a great help. You're welcome. All right, moving on. And you answer one question a day, or maybe answer 5 questions a day. Help people. And then next thing you know, it's like it's been a couple of months, and then you go back, look over your posts, and you find, wow, I've written some nice things. I'm going to take all the stuff I had to say about eggs. I said a lot about eggs. I'm going to make a little ebook about preserving eggs. I don't know. I'm making this shit up.
Yeah, I mean, you could. There's several methods.
And then and so you kind of got this little ebook about preserving eggs, and then you kind of like think, well, there's 3 other things that nobody ever asked me about that I know about preserving eggs. So I'm going to add that to my little ebook. And then you say, hey, I made this crappy ebook. I'm selling it for $1.99.
Yeah.
And it's like, and not only am I selling it for $1.99, but I set it up with a 50% affiliate fee.
Yeah.
And then Nicole Sauce, she says, That book is
That's a
so
great
good.
guide.
Oh, it's so good that Nicole Sauce goes and she tells her entire audience about this book, and then she harvests the 50%, and so 100 people buy this book, and she harvests the 50% of it. So Nicole Sauce made $100.
Woohoo!
And there's a link on her site for it. And then over the next year, she continues to make like $50 a year, from people finding that old thing. And so the book's still there. And now there's 15 other people that have linked to it to try to get their affiliate monies. And so suddenly you made this crappy little ebook and you've kind of raked in about I don't know, $1,000 a year keeps coming in.
Yep.
Not
So
too
that's what you
shabby.
mean by passive income, not investing in a real estate network that's a multi-level marketing scam.
I don't know anything about those.
Right. That's what people think of, I think, when they hear passive income. Is there are a lot of scammy passive income things going on, kind of like, the multi-level marketing, Amway, essential oil, candle world. You know what I'm talking about? Like, hey, let's have a Tupperware party. I know some people have made money in those fields, right? And I know some of those fields that have the Tupperware is a good product if you want to put your food in Tupperware, but it's set up so that you have these teams and you get people on as salespeople. And I think that's part of why when you say passive income, what people are hearing is like, Marvin tried to talk me into this thing that sounded like a scam and I didn't do it, right? You're talking about producing something, finding ways to get it out there and get purchased, have a price point that is a low barrier to entry for people so that long term it has that long tail income over the next 10, 20 years. And as you add more and more and more, your total monthly income starts going up.
Right. Yeah. It's a completely different thing. The stuff about, investing, I don't really know anything about that. All investing to me seems like gambling. It's like, I'm not a gambler really. And then real estate stuff, it just seems like a different flavor of gambling, but you're probably going to win. And it also seems very long term. Like, I'm going to put money into real estate now, and I don't understand it. And then people talk about like, rental property. And it's like, that sounds like work and drama. And
No,
it doesn't sound like
depends how you
passive
set it
at
up,
all.
but it sure can be.
Yeah. Yeah. And then still gambling, you know? And so I don't know, all those things just seem so to me, when I say passive income or residual income streams, I'm thinking of a bunch of homesteaders who've put together little ebooks or movies or whatever. And
Yeah.
so people would talk about how they had problems finding a place. And we used to recommend a place, and that's where I put all my stuff. And then they closed because of VAT. And
Okay.
so we set something up on Permies. So we've got all this. We have our digital market at Permies, and we've got
Yeah.
about, I'm going to guess, probably more than 100 different homesteaders who have something on there. Your
I'm
book
on
on
there.
there,
Yeah.
yeah,
I have more stuff going on there soon, actually.
cool. And then, well, and I know that we include your stuff in some of our Kickstarter things as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
because we only include stuff that's in the digital market. But
Right.
but I know that like each morning I wake up and I'll like this morning I got up and I saw that there were sales of like 20 different things while I slept. And
Yay.
and yeah, less than half of it was my stuff, and I've got probably 50 different things of my own that I've put in
Yeah.
my own digital market. And I know, like, Jack, every morning I get up and it's like, Jack sold this thing. I think there's I did a webinar with Alan Booker, and I saw this morning, like a couple of hours before this call started, that Jack has started to sell that. He's
Yeah.
puts his F code on there, and then it says I get a notice that say you sold the thing and Jack got half the money.
Yeah.
And so it's working. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
how long ago did you start doing this though? Like you were like, "Hey, I'm going to do ebooks and sell them." Like when did that start for you originally? Like 10 years ago, 5 years ago,
in
20 years
2000,
ago?
I got to say, when it comes to residual income streams, it was probably early 2000s
Okay.
when I had an article. I think the first thing I ever wrote that I turned into money online to be a residual income. I wrote an article about ants and aphids on my apple tree.
Mhm.
And I talked about how the ants kind of herd the aphids.
Yeah.
And so I think I put like a Google banner on there, and the Google banners used to pay money.
Yeah,
Um,
back in the day they did.
yeah, now they pay mostly in lies.
Yes.
But yeah, for a while it paid money. Um, and so every month I got money from sticking the little banner on there. I think I also made a link to Diatomaceous Earth, and then I
Yeah.
got money for that. And so I don't know, but I put it out for free, and then later thought of a way to stick something on it to make some money. And because I heard somebody said, "Well, you got to try this banner thing," and
Yeah.
it's like, really? And so I kind of did it and put it on there, and well, that was easy. And then money started showing up, and then it's like, so that was where it started.
Right.
Then it was a 2012.
Mhm.
There was going to be this rocket mass eater workshop that I helped set up,
Yeah.
and there was a guy, he was going to video it and do a Kickstarter and make epic money. And
Mhm.
I was like, man, I hope you make so much money. And so I told all my audience about how there's this workshop. Don't you want to go? I'll be there. I'll be
Yeah.
hanging out. It'll be awesome. And and then people were like, can you record it? Because the thing was full.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, this guy, he's gonna record it. But the guy got weird. He was like, oh no, I don't want to record it now. Because and he had reasons which I couldn't understand. And I kind of felt like, so I said, well, if you let me borrow your camera, I'll I'll record it as best I can.
Yes.
And it turns out I kind of really suck at it, but I did it. I
Right.
did it. And then I did a Kickstarter for it.
Yeah.
And then a guy edited it and he made it way better. So not as bad. And at first when I did the Kickstarter, because it's like I had 24 hours of raw footage, and I was kind of thinking like, how do you get this to people? And I
Right.
thought, well, I
That's a
guess
lot.
at the time DVDs, and I thought maybe I could edit it down to fit on 4 DVDs, because surely a lot of the stuff that's in there is just, monotonous, boring, whatever. So I didn't really want to do it. So I said, I'll do this. This is why I said my Kickstarter. I'll do this for $18,000. Thinking,
Right.
no way are people going to, because I think I said $100 a pop.
Yeah.
So that would require 180 people paying
Yeah.
$100 a pop, and I was
Yeah.
sure. So anyway, it made $92,000.
And you were like, sure.
So yeah, suddenly I like don't mind the editing so much. And, it's like, wow. So then afterwards, I sold it as a standalone thing, and that was kind of like the beginning of where all the Kickstarters started, and getting things to sell, like and it's like for that thing, I don't know, I sell a few per week still. I mean, not enough to live on, but not too shabs.
Yeah.
And now that I've got a bunch of other stuff that I sell, and it's easily, all the things added up is easily enough to live on.
Well,
And
you're living, right?
yeah,
And you're
and
not a lawyer.
I'm only doing this.
You're only doing that. So we were kind of talking about that. It's like, we hire people and we pay them, they know what they're going to make. But we're
But
like, we don't know what we're going to make because it's totally based on what we can produce. Because
I,
I have that same sort of thing in my life that you do.
I promise that they all make more than me.
Uh-huh.
Everybody, but then again, at the end of the year, when I file all my tax shit and stuff like that, it's like I made 80 cents an hour.
Woohoo!
Yeah. And so I promise you're getting more than 80 cents an hour. And I know people are kind of like, yeah, that's too small. And it's like, but you know, and I think I pay my assistants okay money,
Yeah.
not good money, but I also tell them that if they move so much product every month that I'll pay them much more. So I had an assistant a few years ago, and I ended up paying her 2.5 times more than she started because she
Oh,
kept
nice.
finding ways to,
Sell
bring in
stuff.
more coin. Well, she
Yeah.
got me involved in summits, and she would get people to do the affiliate programs for my stuff, and then
Yeah.
she would find other people who had affiliate programs and then announce it in our stuff. And so next thing you know, she's bringing in a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's time to give you another raise.
Yeah.
So it can work, but it's work.
Yeah.
All right. So money. I'm a powerful advocate of passive income streams, which I guess whenever I say it, it sounds like something scammy. And so there's nothing I can do about that. I
No,
feel
you
like
mean
what I'm,
residual income streams, and that might sound nicer to people, but I think we get the concept. So, yeah,
I think it does not seem scammy to me. And I want all other homesteaders to do it,
yeah,
especially the people that don't have their homestead yet, and they're like at a worky job in
yeah,
some city, and they dream of moving out to the country and stuff. So I kind of feel like what a great way to get to the point where it's like, okay, you're working your worky job, and on the weekends you kind of do a little something down residual income stream path, and then a year and a half into it, the amount of money you got coming in every month is bigger than what it's going to cost you to live out in the country. You can bolt, you can
yeah,
go, and do it.
yeah, and that's the dream. I think a lot of people, when they try to go down that road, they run into the challenge that it's a lot of work. So when Paul says passive income, it doesn't mean you're not doing anything, because you are doing something to get it started, and that takes time. And if the hobby you have or where you're spending your time on the weekend is not developing your passive income, and it's something you do and it's not developing any income at all, and you can't figure out how to turn it into that, because that's a whole nother discussion, then a hard choice has to be made. Do I really want to go into the homesteading or country lifestyle? And am I willing to put aside this thing I love doing that doesn't bring me money in, to start developing alternative ways to make money so I can leave my worky job? Because worky jobs are usually geographically linked somewhere.
I think another good one is that if you don't feel like going online and talking to people about homesteading, maybe you're just not that into it.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true. This one, I only have 2 hours a week to get my homestead started. Good. That's 2 hours.
that's huge.
What
That's
can you
great.
do in 2 hours every week to start? Because if what you need to do is save up to buy the homestead or rent the homestead or find a way to go into, you have that program. What's it called? It's
Skip.
Skip. Yeah, the Skip program. That's actually kind of set up to help people get into homesteading or
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
lifestyle.
I think now, I think that when I was working my worky job as a software engineer and dreaming of the homestead, I read mountains of books. I just was burning through all these books. I could have
Yeah.
easily written, like, once I finished the last page of a book, I could easily write a review about what I just read,
Yeah.
and like how it compares to some of the other books that I read or whatever, and kind of have this mass of reviews, and then
Yeah.
share that with people for free. And then later, like, I'm not sure how good an ebook would be about book reviews. It doesn't seem very valuable. But the thing is that that's a thing that I did, is I read a lot of stuff, and it's like that could be something that could be shared.
Yep. I can't wait to. I haven't dug into your garden master course because um, I have to make time for things like that, and I'm going to. But this person said, I'm developing skills while I save up to buy my homestead. I loving all the stuff that came out with the Garden Master Kickstarter.
I,
So,
I think that a lot of people are very happy with our Kickstarters, because especially like the Garden Master Kickstarter, I think may have had the most stuff of all of our past Kickstarters. And
yeah,
so you get the product itself, plus, I don't know, probably 50 other little bits and
a
bobs.
million little things. Yes.
And so it was a pretty rich combo there.
Yeah.
And I know that we've just recently put the Garden Master course out,
Yep.
and it's available. Where I know that we're currently putting together the official web page for it,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll announce that soon. But I also know that if you know where you're going in Permies, you can find where it is for sale and go get it right now.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, Nicole, it's got a 50% affiliate fee
Hey
on.
guys, use my affiliate link.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You can just link right to it.
That'll give me residual income.
I mean, if 10 people did it, I think we sold for $85.
Yeah.
So you'd be getting like 40 some bucks a pop. If 10 people did it, you'd have $400 before the day's out. That's
Yeah.
not too shabs.
Yeah, Julia says she'd be willing to pay for book reviews by Paul Wheaton because it would save her from buying books that would just double up on information I already have. See, there you go. That's your next ebook, Paul.
Oh man, now I got to go reread all those. I mean, things are so different now. But before coming out, I mean, I was just consuming mountains of books.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I don't read a new book very often. I'm more of a book writer. I've written 2 books. Well, 3 if you count. Well, 7 if you count the silly books that I put out as like unfinished drafts, which
Yeah.
oddly enough, one of those is kind of it sells very well, which is
Yes.
odd to me. But the Permaculture Thorns book, have you, Nicole, looked at my Permaculture Thorns
I have
book?
not read that book.
Okay. So when people come here for events, and then what I do for events is of course we've hired a cook.
Woohoo!
And so then there's like all this food, for everybody. Yeah. And I run down there and get in on it too. So,
yeah.
So for 3 meals a day, I'm down there with everybody, and then it's like, people want to ask questions. And so it's like, that's cool. I'll eat my beans and visit with you about whatever you want to visit about.
Right.
And the weird thing is that I've got all this stuff that everybody wants to talk about Permaculture Thorns. And it's like, okay, when you wrote this thing in Permaculture Thorns, did you read? And it's like,
you're like, did I write that?
Well, the weird thing, and this kind of might be part of what we were talking about earlier, but when I wrote Permaculture Thorns, I kind of was feeling like no one wants to read this. So all I'm really writing is stuff I feel like I just need to say, but no one's going to read this. And it's like, so I don't know. I had this weird attitude about what I wrote. I need to just say it. I need to just write it down. I need to just get it on paper.
Right.
And now that it's there, I'm thinking, oh yeah, sure, I can put it out there with a Kickstarter, because it sounds like a book, but no one's going to read it. And next thing you know, it's everybody wants to read it, and everybody's like changing their lives based on what's written in this book. And it's like, wow, I never imagined it would be that profound for people. Cool. Weird, but cool.
I think, somebody in the comments has said if I could finish my book, I would be gladly put it on Permies. When you finish your book, Weird Acres, when? Uh, Putting the word if in the story you tell yourself gives yourself an out to not finish the book. So if you're going to write the book, write the book. But writing books, especially your like first one, it's a weird feeling because you start writing this thing and the first draft for me is always a bunch of word vomit, basically. And then I go from there. Like I'll have an outline and I'll be like, nope, not doing it in that order. And I word vomit and then I have to go from there. But when you're at the word vomit phase, it would be interesting reading for some people. But it's just sort of like you got to get it out to move forward. So it sounds like what you did is you got a bunch of stuff out. Has that informed future projects that you worked on or things that you wrote?
I would have to say that it has been a powerful tool when trying to figure some things out and people have read it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I wrote it. But I kind of was feeling like I'm by myself on this topic.
Yeah.
I'm so far out in the weeds on what I'm trying to do. I just got to keep notes to kind of help me build on my knowledge set for where I'm trying to go. And it has been a beautiful experience if somebody's actually read it, because this stuff that's kind of challenging topics, I can talk to other people about it, and which is just delightful. Now, I do get the idea of word vomit. Like I'm going to write a bunch of stuff and it's a bunch of crazy stuff and it all goes together, but
yeah.
However, I can do that for like a chapter, and then I got to go through and then jiggle the chapter and then jiggle it again and maybe one more time.
Yeah.
And now I've got a chapter.
Right.
But
it's ready for an editor to look at it after 3 iterations.
Now, I want to talk about the person that was saying, if I could finish my book, and you said when.
Yeah.
And then I have this thing I want to share, and maybe you don't want me to share it. I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
But in my software engineering days, the thing that I advocated for was something called pair programming. And this is where you got two software engineers sitting at one workstation.
Okay.
One of them is the driver, and the other one is the partner. It is the partner's job to do anything that they can to accelerate the driver. And so it's critically important that the partner never says you're doing it wrong, what you're doing is stupid, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So the thing that happens is that the velocity of the driver goes dramatically up. The driver cannot go check their email. They can't go look at whatever on the internet might be new. Whatever is their interest, that is their procrastination. They can't do it because they got somebody literally looking at the screen. What are you doing now? What are you doing now?
Man, that's hardcore.
That's a typo. Go back, fix it. And so,
yeah,
so you're gonna focus on what you got to get done.
Yeah.
And then the idea in pair programming is every hour the keyboard switches to the other person and the roles reverse.
Oh, interesting.
But in the case of this, I know that sometimes I've got something I need to do, like taxes or something.
Yeah, that's on my low I hate to do it list. It's like I really hate doing taxes.
And yet you could put it off too long.
And then you're like, and I got a return. So like literally I got my money back for the hours I invested.
But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, like, for this person that is working on a book, then there's a good chance there's somebody in your life who needs help with something also. And you could say pair programming. And I've done this many times. And so, what you do is that it's like, okay, the pair comes in and sits next to you and you plow through, and in like 45 minutes, you got it done.
Yeah.
Now it's your job to be the partner and pair with them on something that they're trying to do. All I'm trying to do is share a technique if somebody's like stuck on a book, they're like not putting the time into it that they want, I'd like to suggest pair programming. I know that I do it, and not all the time, not very often, but when I get stuck on something, sometimes I need to do some pair programming with somebody to help me get through it. And so all I'm trying to do, I'm not sure, this is where I'm saying, like, I'm not sure you wanted me to talk about this, but I'm talking about it anyway.
We don't have a lot of rules here about that. Go for it.
So it's a technique for somebody if you're stuck on something and you want to move forward, but it's like for whatever reason you've hit a bump. I mean, if anybody's got any kind of writer's block,
Yeah.
I don't have much problem with writer's block myself, but I understand some people do, and you want to get through some things and get to the point that you're producing something. This is something you can try. I find it's very effective. All right.
So it's funny because that's a technique that they recommend you use with people who are ADD or ADHD,
Okay.
having trouble focusing, and the person comes in and doesn't do anything except for be there. So, for example, house gets out of control. It's time to buckle down and organize the house. This happens to me all the time. I don't need somebody to come help me organize the house. But if my mom comes and sits in her chair and does mom things in the same room, suddenly I'm just like, I knock it out in an afternoon. So I think that's a similar reason why there's somebody there. So you're like, okay, I have an accountability that wasn't there before, right? And so that's part of the fun.
Okay. Hey, Nicole, what would you like to talk about now? I think we've got to chase down a few tangents. Surely there's something more substantial to talk about.
I think, well, so the reason I hung on the money and productivity topic for so long is everybody gets you on and it's like, hey, let's talk about rocket mass heaters, natural building, permaculture, all of which you know a ton about. But because of that thing in the permaculture world where making money is nasty, I thought it would be interesting to hear your perspective of how you built your empire, which did not happen overnight. Oh, yeah. Right? Because a lot of people see personalities are like, they're so successful, they'd explode. So I think that was a great use of time. Somebody early on said they're applying permaculture to making money. So something about permaculture that is interesting to me is we always think about it in terms of the land, right? We tend to. But have you ever permacultured your kitchen? Like just how you organize your kitchen? That's what I want to talk about. Applying permaculture practices to things that are non-standard.
Right now, I think people could still buy tickets to this thing where Alan Booker is doing this resilient kitchen thing on Permies. And the tickets are for sale on Permies. And so you could set up an F-code thing for that.
Yeah.
But the way that it's been described to me to permaculture your kitchen is very powerful. And so it's a lot of stuff of like, rather than like the whole concept of a recipe is, it's not a bad idea, but it's like, no, if you're thinking recipe, you're thinking the wrong way. Yeah. You're thinking not permaculture. And so it's like more like, here's the material, because it's like as the seasons progress, there's different foods that become available. And then as you go into winter, there's certain foods that you've preserved. And so there's a lot of what do you have? And then the mindset on how to turn that into something glorious. So now I got to say, last night we ate fermented meats.
Yum.
It was, what were they making? But we have the boot camp here. So there's a whole bunch of people who live here year round and they do all this stuff. And then in the colder months, we have what we call half-assed holidays. Yeah. So about a week ago, a little more than a week ago, we had a half-assed holiday that was fermentation day. And so a guy that's an expert fermenter came out here as a sepper to stay for a couple of weeks. A sepper program is you rent a bunk or a cabin. I believe he's staying in the Red Cabin. And uh, and then he wanted to be here because fermentation's his big thing. He teaches
Yeah.
classes on fermentation. In fact, I think that tomorrow he's going to be teaching an online class from here about fermentation.
Cool.
Uh, and I think that he's selling tickets for like $44 on Permies, and you can do an F code thing for that. And
Yeah.
so, but all right, so he was here for fermentation day, and then what is the brisket? Not brisket, something
Corned
else.
beef.
Corned beef, I think. But
Yeah.
the end
Corned beef is
goal,
fermented.
the end goal is to make this Reuben sandwich.
Yes.
What is the meat in a Reuben?
Isn't that corned beef?
It might
I
be
don't
corned
know.
beef. Is it
I know that it has
pastrami?
sauerkraut and a beef-like substance. I'm pretty sure.
It might be pastrami.
Oh, it
Anyway,
might be pastrami. You're right. I
yeah.
don't know. I don't eat sandwiches
Anyway,
much anymore, but yeah.
he cut a slice, and so it's a grass-fed beef and
Yeah.
organic,
Yeah.
he cut a slice off, and it's like melt in your mouth, and so many flavors.
Yeah.
So good. And then of course he made a bread that was a sourdough rye bread to go with it, and then he also fermented a mustard. Um, all I'm trying to say is like when you go down Food Road, then how do you permaculture things that are not a garden? And so this is kind of what he's doing is he's doing permaculture in the kitchen. And it was like, so there's the Alan Booker course. There's
Yeah.
also this guy's course that'll be tomorrow. Austin is here, and this, can we use the classroom to teach this course? And I said, sure, go ahead. uh, have fun. Leave me out of it. Because, it's like if you're going to do a live course, it's like, oh man, there's a lot of overhead to get that to work. And they're doing
Yep.
it. So
Yep.
they've got a big plan, and the boots, the people who live here are going to be down there
Sweet.
participating. Yeah. So, which is another thing too. You could tell people about the boot camp. You can even use your F code on that.
Yeah, the boot camp is something we've talked about a bit. What I'm going to go back to the kitchen thing though, because somebody was
Yeah.
like, permaculture is more than land. Yes, I know. That's my point. We always talk about the plants and the animals, and we don't talk about when you get into permaculture. And I wouldn't call myself an expert. I would just call myself a student of at this point. You realize it applies to everything. It's like every time you take a step, you start realizing, oh, I can apply the concept of zones in how I organize things in my kitchen. So the things I pick up every day are at the front of a drawer or something, and the things I use once a year are away in the back where I have to dig for it. And when you just apply that basic principle, that's just one little piece of permaculture, right? To things like that, it makes a huge difference. So, and then I love this seasonal cooking thing. That's like speaking my language because that's what we do here. So, yeah. And there's a big debate about Reuben sandwiches now in the comments. I noticed.
So,
So here's the link to the boot camps. Let me get it in.
okay,
The Wheaton Labs boot camps, right?
there it is, and you're doing it without your F code. So
I
if
don't know how to
anybody's
make my F code. I'll totally ask Christine that question later.
okay, all right,
Y'all always just send me my link, and I have not figured out, like, my affiliate program. I ask !ref equal, and then this affiliate code, right? So I don't have that figured out for y'all, and I never did ask. So
there was a podcast we recorded a couple of years ago. There's the boot camp. Maybe I should talk about the boot camp instead.
yeah,
Let me talk about this other thing before I forget it, because it's
okay,
kind of like how permaculture kind of goes with everything. And you were saying something there, and it's kind of like we made a podcast called The Click.
yeah.
And did you listen to it?
I've listened to a few.
Okay. The Click is a big one, and so what it is that you kind of live your life and you study some permaculture stuff, and you're like, this is cool stuff, and then you get about a year and a half into it, and you're like, oh man, permaculture is like so awesome, and I'm using it in everything.
Yeah.
And then there's this moment, and it's like it's a click. It's like an instant. It's
Yeah.
like it happens within 1 second, where suddenly, boom, and you see your whole life. Basically, the feeling is that up until this moment, you've been living your whole life backwards, and
Yeah.
from this second forward, you can only live your life forwards. And it's like, because all those, because before the click, though, that was just a list of cool permaculture things. But what happens with the click is suddenly all those pieces connected to each other,
Right.
and they fit together in such a way that it's like, oh shit. And now you can, and suddenly, like, 87 new ideas pop into your head in this instant about how you're gonna. So pretty much before, permaculture was fun to talk about, and you lived in the city, and you had this person you hung out with, was your, your partner, special friend, whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
your significant other, and then, you'd go out for dinner, and you'd go out for breakfast, you'd go to concerts and whatever
All the
else.
things. Yeah.
And then suddenly there's the click, and you're like, I am not going to live this way for another minute. I'm going to leave the city. I'm going to go out to the country. I'm going to grow a giant fucking garden, and I'm going to have a permaculture kitchen now, and I'm going to live in community. I'm going to do all of these things. I mean, the idea of being in the city another minute with my worky job is unacceptable. I can't live that way. I can't live backwards anymore. So this is a phenomenon that happens with people. You travel down permaculture road for a while, and everything is just lovely. And then you have the click, and it destroys your life while building you a new life. And and then suddenly you see everything as permaculture, kind of like what you're describing.
Yes.
And it's the only way to live from there on. So this is this in the permaculture world, this is like the leading cause of divorce.
I can see why. Because if the other spouse is not with you when that happens, oh no.
And it's like, can't you just keep on eating at restaurants with me and stuff? And
Yeah.
what about your job? What about your family? And it's like, I can't. I now know that life is dumb and pathetic and stupid.
Here's the link to that. I put it in the chat, but here's a link to that.
Oh, good.
For those
There
who
you
are
go.
on Twitter or whatever. Yeah.
And I think you probably don't want to listen to that podcast unless
Unless you're ready.
unless you've done the click. And I mean, I don't know how many people that are on the chat right now have been through the click. And I'm not
I don't know
saying
either.
there's a lot of people that kind of became a flavor of miserable as part of the click, because they had a good relationship with a lovely person, and suddenly that they can't anymore. They just can't. And it's weird, but suddenly your life is full of this new super substance, which makes everything else seem banal. And so I don't know. Maybe this should be a warning. Hey,
Yeah.
don't get too into permaculture. There's
It
a
depends. I
downside.
mean, it doesn't have to be that way, actually. I've seen plenty also make it through. So it just depends on how you navigate that, I think. A lot of times I see permaculture families, though, where, one person starts down that road and the others follow a year or two later. Like they see the stuff going on, they don't get in the way of it, so they're quietly supportive but not helping, and then over time they're like, wait a minute, a snowstorm came through, and because of all the changes we've made, we were warm and well fed and didn't need the services that come to our house necessarily. Or they see
Right.
something happens, they eat the peach off the tree that's fresh for the first time and realize that's a completely different flavor than what's at the grocery store.
I think it's kind of like you can play video games and smoke weed all day if you want, but here's this person in your life who's whittling up a spoon, and it's like you don't need a wooden spoon. I mean, they'll sell them at the store for $1. Why would
Mm-hmm.
you want to whittle a spoon? And yet,
Because I
there,
want to know how.
and it's like you don't even really need to know how. But the thing is that there is a visceral, biophilic thing that happens. You've got a piece of wood that you took off of a tree, or a shrub. We tend to use serviceberry, also known as
Yeah.
Saskatoon, and that's what we usually make our spoons out of. So here you got this stick that came off of a shrub, and
Yes.
and you've split it with a hatchet, and you kind of gone at it with a hatchet to make something that is almost spoon shaped, and and now you're sitting down and you got, like, a sharp knife, and then you got this other sharp knife that's got this fucked up shape for carving the bowl of the spoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you're kind of doing it. You don't need a spoon. You don't need to know how to carve a spoon, but damn it, there is something that feeds your soul to
Yes.
do it.
Well, I
And
mean,
it's
I
like,
think that's how the whole lifestyle is. It feeds your soul. So you find yourself doing things from absolute scratch that nobody with any ounce of sanity would invest that amount of time to do, like make mayonnaise. And it's because you want to, and you have too many eggs or whatever it is. And you're like, I might as well make my own mayonnaise. And it's way healthier than what you'll get at the store. And, I don't know. I feel like, because Lamar here says, sounds like a whole cultural lifestyle change. I think it is. I also think that most of us don't learn about permaculture on Monday and make the change by Wednesday. Like, I feel like
oh
I've
yeah,
been transitioning for 15 years now. And the first 6 or 8 of those years, I didn't know what permaculture was. I was trying to invent permaculture, where one system feeds another system and you organize in an efficient way. And you learn from nature. And if the wild plant grows there, why not just let that, elderberry, in my case, grow where the elderberry already is? Why fight it? I had come to that naturally because that's what happens when you interact with nature. That's why permaculture is powerful, because it's nature, and it's working with nature instead of against nature. And I think it's a natural progression, and most people don't just get it overnight and do it in 3 days. I don't think that's a
right.
thing.
No. And I mean, you can go and get, when you're getting started, it's like, okay, here's some hugel culture, do a little bit of that. And then,
Yeah.
that zone 1, zone 2. So, okay, plant your herbs close to your kitchen door. Um, you know, and it's these little things, little of that. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, and then I'm saying after a year and a half is the click. And so I think for most people it's like a year and a half, but some people it's faster, and some people, and you're right. There's some people where it's like it's the whole family. Not very common, but sure enough, the whole family
Yeah.
is doing it. And it's kind of like, and I think what's beautiful is when it's like, got the kids the video game box, and so they
Yeah.
got that, and it's got the video games. And I went and I bought them a big sack of weed. They can have all the weed and video games they want, but they do other stuff instead. They do these other things, and it's like, and I think that's the big win right there. When it's like, and it's not for everybody, and that's what makes it even better. It's not for everybody, but
Yeah.
I
It
the
doesn't
skip
have to
book,
be for everybody. That's the thing.
the skip book is basically a list of over 1,000 projects. And
Yeah.
these projects have been selected based on how you can take a picture of it and prove you did it. And then after a while you can say, look, I did 100 projects. And then there's other people out there who are interested to know you better because you've gotten a bunch of stuff done. So much so that they're willing to do stuff for you that they don't want to do for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the skip. But these projects are those things that are going to be soul building for some folks and not for others. But and
Yeah.
yet there's a bunch of people that are going to be doing these things because of the visceral biophilic effect. And then there's other people where they've hit the click. Like they went down this road and then they hit the click and then there's no other way to live. Whereas I think most of the people where you see a whole permaculture family, it's like, I think most of the time they haven't hit the click yet, but there might be one person in the family that has, and the rest are like glad to be along for the ride because this is at the very least far more interesting than staying in town.
Well, interesting, and you feel better. Like I think about, so I was just in California for a week for Family Matters, and I ate the food in California, some of which is high quality organic food grown by the local farm, some of which was ice cream, which I wasn't supposed to eat this month, but I did eat ice cream. I will confess. I'm supposed to be sticking to just meat this month, but I cheated a little bit. And man, I felt so bad by the time I got home from eating not my food that I was like, finally get home to water that's coming out of a spring. And it took about 12 hours and my whole body reset. And I just, the whole time, I had a headache. I felt hungover. I wasn't drinking. It was a mess. And I'm like, that's what food makes people feel like all the time. And they just don't know it until you get off the food that's bad. So now, like Joel Salatin, I think I just have to bring all my own food if I go out of town.
Boy, that's got challenge written all over it too.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder about, well, I've got 100 different thoughts all fighting in my head at once to come out. There's so much to be said about getting to a point that you're so healthy that you can go and eat that stuff.
Yeah, apparently I'm not there yet.
And then of course, if you've got any kind of ailment, eat good, and then your ailment mysteriously goes away. Now, I gotta say, I believe, and every time I say this, there's always a parade of people to tell me how dumb I am and that I don't know anything.
Oh, great. So you're going to be dumb now. Go for it.
I'm going to be dumb. I believe that about 80 to 85% of all ailments will disappear if you eat permaculture food.
I agree.
And so it's like, and I think on that list is cancer, and it's like, and I've had permies, who have come to my house here.
Yeah.
And they're like, Paul, I gotta talk to you privately. And it's like, oh, okay. So they come into my office. Welcome to my office right here. And I sit them down on that couch and I say, okay, what do you got to say? And it's like, well, I got stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
And the first thing I say is, are you eating only organic or better? And it's, and then usually and universally,
no. Yeah.
And it's like, go figure. I mean, there you go. It's kind of like step 1. Well, yeah, but, and it's like, that sounds like a big long list of horseshit. And if you want to die from it, that's your choice. And I'm not guaranteeing that, switching over is going to change a fucking thing. But kind of seems like, cancer comes from carcinogens. And so you're saying like you want to eat 100 times more carcinogens than me. And it's like, that's your right. And you can do that. And it sounds like you're going to be dead in about a month. So I hope it was worth it. I mean, granted, I'll give you some of that food out there, like that ice cream you spoke of.
Yeah, it was delicious.
It can be so yummy. And it's like, wow, sugar is great.
Yes. I usually don't eat sugar at all, so it was a rush.
Have you ever seen I saw a thing on YouTube. It was a documentary that was about 15 minutes long about how sugar is made. And so they start with the sugar cane and then they bring it into the factory and then it's like, and then we pour the toxic gick on it. Then we use a different toxic gick to wash
Yep.
off that toxic gick. And then, and it's like, whoa, that is far more yucky than I thought happened with sugar.
Hey, the
So,
rumor is Paul loves his sugars from Jeff.
yeah, Jeff, aren't you supposed to be sick today? Speaking of sugars, I think I do a pretty good job of going easy on it and not going too crazy. Although I love it. There have been so many times that I go to a speaking gig, and so here I am, 1,000 miles from home, and I go to get on some big stage, and then like in the 4 or 5 minutes before you start, I get a bunch of people who come up and they bring me a pie. And they'll be like,
you like pie.
There'll be like 4 different people that'll be like, I made you a pie. I'll have 4 pies. It's awesome being me. So then it's like, okay, well, I can't eat the pie now, but later I'll be done with this presentation. And then I'll have a whole bunch of people who want to help me eat the pie.
Yes, people will help you eat 4 pies.
Life is so good. So anyway, no, I think I do a pretty good job of going like, several weeks of not having any sugar at all. But yeah, sugar is of course delicious. But at the same time, cancer loves the sugar too.
Right. And when you're feeling bad, adding sugar to make yourself feel better emotionally works for like a split second, but you're like usually feeding the bad sugar, and that's bad. Like that's more bad. Like when you have a cold or something, it's just gonna I think it prolonged your cold to add the sugar and the alcohol and all that stuff.
So a few years ago, I went to go see my voodoo doctor about something. And I thought he said a great thing. He said, because here in Missoula, there's a place in town called Vera Donuts, and they want like $5 a donut. So kind of in a way, they want to keep those donuts. They don't want anybody to have them.
Right.
But
they must be really good.
I've parted with the money for those donuts a few times, and it's like, oh, that's just a bit of heaven right there. That's what heaven's probably is all about, is Vera Donuts. So I'm seeing my voodoo doctor, and he says, okay, here's the thing. I need you to have a life packed with Vera Donuts. I need you to eat all the Vera Donuts you can hold.
Yeah.
That's the quality of life I need you to have. So let's get you there. And it's like, but here's the thing, is that I need you to eat a proper meal first, then eat the donut. Okay.
Yeah. Then there's no room.
Don't do dessert first. Okay. You do dessert last, and you don't eat 12 donuts, because these donuts are giant.
Yeah.
You get one donut. Okay. With each meal. If you want to eat 12 donuts, you have to eat 12 meals before each donut.
Yeah.
I thought that was some pretty brilliant advice. And of course, not everybody can eat donuts, and not every, there's a richer story there. But the thing is I kind of feel like what he was trying to tell me is basically the Better World book. And so here's a copy of this. Yeah, I wrote this book. It's awesome. So, but I kind of feel like the purpose of the book was to say, here are things where you can make your life better. I think every suggestion in the book is about making your life more luxuriant, more better, more money in your pocket, nicer this, nicer that. Everything's nothing sacrifice. And it's like at the same time, it has improvements for the environment, and which which is kind of like, you live in the environment too. It's
Yeah.
like, stop shitting in your drinking water, okay? It's just a tip, you know? And it turns out to be other people's drinking water too.
So everybody wins.
So yeah, it's kind of like, hey, be a good neighbor, really, you know? So, all right.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because so I have a friend who he was a very liberal left-wing environmentalist, and his career was environmental research. Okay.
Okay.
He did that about a decade in looking at the research, he came to the conclusion that in countries where there is more prosperity, there are fewer environmental problems. And in countries with more poverty, there are more environmental problems, like the bad stuff scorching the earth. And so he came to the conclusion that building up people from a wealth and prosperity standpoint is a better long-term impact on the environment than everything he had been pushing for 10 years. And he completely changed careers because of that and started focusing on how can we make it, economic success for as many people as possible so that they care about the environment, because they have time to care about the environment at that point. And then they need the tools to figure out how to take care of the world around them. But if your biggest worry is, can I get food on my table? You don't care.
And I think if your biggest worry is get food on your table, I want to talk to you about gardening.
Yeah, gardening's a great start. It's a great start.
Yeah. Or foraging. Let's talk about some of that.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that is difficult to observe is when people are living in a perpetual panic state.
Yeah.
And I want to guide them out of that into something that is more delightful. It is a nice day every day kind of a thing, as opposed to perpetually stressed out about getting enough money to pay the bills and buy food.
Yeah.
And they're making decisions about, well, what if I did this thing, maybe I can go 2 weeks without food, kind of a thing. And I don't know, that just, I just hate to hear about these kinds of things. And they're industrious, good people.
Yeah.
So it's, anyway. All right. I've wandered off into the weeds.
No, we actually stayed on task, surprisingly. You literally stayed on task, but I know that you like to go off on tangents, so that was part of the interview built in. I like to tap into what you asked at, so we just sort of guided you towards some tangents. It was a good discussion. I think we're getting close to the end of our time, though. I have 2 questions from the audience, and then I'd love you to promote whatever you want to. So I don't think this one's important. That one's for me. Julia, I consider it theft what the government takes from me, so that's a totally different thing. But Weird Acres wants to know if you'll be at Self-Reliance Festival this year. That depends, right?
Oh, it depends. It depends.
Probably. So we don't know. I would love to bring Paul down to a Self-Reliance Festival, and he and I were kind of talking about what that looks like before, but we have to, we're at the initial phases of talking, and, schedules have to work out. All of it has to work out. So you guys, if Paul is speaking at Self-Reliance Festival, you will be the first to know. I will shout it from the rooftops. Hopefully we'll get him down. If not this year, next year. That's what I'm thinking.
How many people go to Self-Reliance Festival?
About 500.
That's a nice crowd.
It's a nice crowd. And it's all outdoors, but you can sneak inside if you want to. It's done at a sewing factory. So we bring in this giant tent on a gravel lot. People camp in his area, but he's taken basically what was a gravel pit and applied permaculture practices to it for a number of years. So there's he's built soil where there was none.
Oh, Jack's here.
Huh?
Jack is here. I see
Jack. Hello, Jack. Jack Spirko is in the room. We could bring him on. But yeah, so it's a pretty cool place. So we'd love to have you out there at some point. And, as I said, if we book them, you guys will totally know about that. Those are the 2 questions I have. Hey, Paul, what do you want to promote before we hop off? I know we talked about a lot of your projects. So what's the best way for people to get involved with your community?
Oh, well, Permies.com, come on out to the forums and just get lost there for a few months. I would have to say, I know I met with Bo earlier today and we were talking about our permaculture design course is about, we kind of have a super early bird price right now.
Yeah.
And that is going to be ending in a couple of days. So if people want the super early bird price, they want to get it now.
Okay.
Um, so I know that we were talking about that. I know that we just came out with the Free Heat movie a little while ago. It turned out really good. The Garden Master course, the full video of all of the course is excellent. Andreas has added beautiful animations,
Yeah.
and that just went online a few days ago. And so all the people who backed the Kickstarter now have access and they're watching it. And so that's going on. And there is now some talk, and I've been looking at the footage and, thinking like, yeah, I think we could do this, about doing a new Kickstarter to cover the permaculture technology jamboree that we did last
Oh,
summer.
cool. Yeah.
And so there's not only have there been a lot of very fascinating builds as there are every year, because we are big on inventing new things.
Yes.
But one of the things that we did seemed like, yeah, that's a cool thing. But apparently it turned an entire industry on its ear. And so in the world of ceramics, then if you have a kiln in your ceramics studio, you're going to spend $35 to $75 to fire up your kiln to, do your ceramics stuff. So you try to pack it tight and then, only have one fire every few days, kind of a thing, stuff like that. And so $35 to $75 each time you fire it up, whether it's natural gas or electricity to
Right.
heat it. And then for people that have ever used wood to try to do something similar, they can't quite get it hot enough, but they'll use like half a cord of wood. So
That's a lot of wood.
yeah, it's like I think in my area right now, firewood's like $300 a cord, so it'd be like $150 in wood. But
Yeah.
it does impart some different colors onto it, but it's a huge, huge task. So we have been dabbling with kilns using our rocket stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've come up with a few different prototypes and done a few experiments. We also used it as a forge for like, oh, let's put this bit of steel in there. Let's make a sword, out of a piece of rebar, things like that. And then we also would melt aluminum into weird shapes. Somebody made a W. Oh, there it is. I don't know if you can see it. There's a W on the wall back there. Ugh. But that's from aluminum cans that we melted in these prototypes. And so then this last summer, we made the formal, final, permanent kiln. And so basically, we reached what's called high fire. So
Yeah.
it's about 2250 Fahrenheit. And we did it with about this much wood. And
Nice.
and it was pine conifer wood, so like not even considered wood that could do it. And we did it. And so which is a lot less than half a cord. And so now suddenly the whole industry is kind of like, we used to spend $35 to $75 per firing, and now it looks like we can do it with maybe $1.50 worth of firewood, or just stuff that we pick up off the ground in our yard. And so everything is being flip-flopped all around in the ceramics industry because of what we did last summer.
That's awesome.
I
need to check that out.
This is the kind of stuff that we do. So now we're putting together a movie, and it'll have like a dozen different builds. I think the thing that I like the most is the log picnic table. But and then, I guess other people, yes, the kiln is amazing, and the
But
kiln
the log
slash,
picnic table, man, is probably pretty.
I think it's cool. And it's like, oh yeah, we got a bunch of extra trees. Just cut them down with this picnic table. I think that's cool. And but yeah, the kiln slash forge thing, that's also very cool. And and then a good shaving horse, a really beautiful shaving horse.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket hot tub, a bunch. I don't know. There's just a long list of little cool projects that we did at the PDJ, and now it might come together to be our next Kickstarter number 13.
Yeah, well,
So
stay tuned, guys, over at permies.com. That's the place to start interacting no matter what you do. There's great forums there. You can find all of these things for sale there if you poke around long enough. And I want to point this out, Paul. Jack says the following to you about Self-Reliance Festival. John's a system that's huge and only requires about 15 minutes of work a day that John does personally. Get your Yeti ass to SRF and bring your camera. That sounds like Jack,
yeah. I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna go. It sounds like I just learned about it an hour ago.
Yeah.
So but it sounds like a good fit. And I've never been to Tennessee before. I'm sure they have pie there.
We do have pie. We have chess pie. You know what chess pie is?
No, I've never heard of
No,
it.
I didn't know what it was either till I moved here. So it was a totally new pie for me. It's a very good pie. See, now we've got his interest. So your speaker package will include a chess pie, right? That's going to be required.
What's in it?
Well, it's sort of like a custard pie, but a little bit different. Mostly eggs and milk, but it's delicious.
All right.
Pie crust.
All right.
Yeah. Seasoning.
I'm
You're now intrigued.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to finding out what this is.
All right. Okay. Well, Paul, thanks so much for making time with us today.
Thanks for having me out, Nicole. I look forward to doing this again sometime soon.
Yeah, me too.